Welcome to Section 3, Cognitive Bias by Universal Design of Learning, Writing Your Speech and Creating Graphic Designs for an Inclusive Audience Presentation. I'm your instructor, Michelle Carmichael. Well, to begin, we must ask ourselves, what are cognitive biases? Well, it's a systematic pattern of our own flawed judgment, interpretation, or reasoning of the reality that is around us. Simply put, it is our interpretation of what we think is right or looks good to ourselves, but in reality, our cognitive biases can impact our thinking processes and decision making by our own emotions, our individual motivations, our ability to process information, or social pressures from our own circles. And we are all susceptible to cognitive biases, and this can lead to judgment and decision making that deviates from our rational objectivity. And here's a direct quote from 6 Minutes series, Andrew Douglas, and he says, "We aren't equally susceptible to every cognitive bias, and we aren't all impacted in identical ways." Now, this is something to think about when you're designing your presentation for your inclusive audience. And cognitive biases influences the 3 principles of UDL, the why and what and how of learning. Now, how you stimulate your inclusive audience by using cognitive biases is a strategy, and this will innovate your presentation design and delivery. Now, knowing your audience, who is out there listening and receiving your message, will innovate your design thinking. Audience awareness is a crucial aspect of Section 3. If you don't know who your audience is, how are you to design for them? Now, the core concept for Section 3 is poor choices in presentation content and structure can lead your audience members to irrational conclusions and assumptions. And this is why cognitive bias is a fundamental concept to understand when using universal design of learning to design a presentation for your inclusive audience. So, how do cognitive biases affect a speaker? Well, we've all been anxious before we go on stage, but cognitive biases affect us as a presenter in many different ways. And here are the top few that I chose. Now, cognitive bias could lead to amplified nervousness and distorted perceptions during a presentation, or give us anxiety, and some of us actually freeze up on stage. Cognitive bias could lead a performer to skewed judgments of either success or failure of their performance. That's self-doubt and lack of confidence. Cognitive bias can also lead you to have a closed mind when seeking out and listening to feedback, and that's the failure to receive constructive criticism objectively for your improvement. And also, cognitive bias can lead some novice or established speakers to embellish their effectiveness as a performer or just become plain out arrogant. Now, how do cognitive biases affect audience members? Well, we have all expected one thing from a presenter and then received an unexpected outcome while they're presenting. Now, cognitive bias can affect an audience by the presenter exhibiting behaviors that might lead your audience to irrational conclusions about you, either before, during, and after your presentation. And cognitive bias might also lead your audience to be irrationally resistant to persuasion or have a fixed mindset to your topic. Now, cognitive bias might also lead your audience to interpret your message in ways that you did not intend. And if that is the case, then you should look at where you need to sharpen your skills. Also, cognitive bias might also prevent your audience from participating or open to learning. Now, this is especially seen in presentations that start off boring and they don't grab the attention of the audience from the start. And finally, cognitive bias might prevent some audience members from attending your presentation entirely. Either they don't care about your topic or they have no interest in what you have to say, which is reflected to a fixed mindset. And these are just a few ways that audience exhibit cognitive biases. Now, let's think about the why and what and how your audience will receive and interpret your message. Consider the needs of your audience and the ethics of your delivery. Look at your script and consider the following. 1 is time. How much time do you have on stage or in front of your audience? Your speech should be natural. choosing relevant points that stimulate your audience. 2. Your coordination and systematic timing. Time your speech with your slides. You don't want to be showing slide 4 and you're talking about slide 2. So write by timing how long you will spend on each slide as a guide. And 3, your technical jargon. Avoid using overly technical language to avoid confusions or misinterpretations so those without prior knowledge of your topic can understand and comprehend your overall message. Now, your proper design of visual information will provide the scaffolding to ensure that all learners have access to building knowledge of your topic. Awareness of cognitive bias by the UDL principle representation, or the what of learning, provides you with a logistical perspective of your visual presentation design. Here you are telling a visual story using language and symbols, your charts, graphs, or images. The awareness of cognitive bias by the use of audio assistance plays a large part in how your inclusive audience receives your message and interprets your data. Using audio or music clips that are overwhelming by tone, volume, or duration can cause disturbing effects as an audience member. Be conscious of this and perform sound checks and tailor your audio to a desirable volume. Now consider these cognitive bias points when designing your physical visuals. Are there any areas in your design that show obscure wording, confusing graphics, irrelevant information, etc.? You want to make sure your graphics match what you were talking about. Now, your aesthetics by your physical design is your logistical order, the timing and correlation of showing slides parallel to your speaking. And does your overall look and tone, color palette, and fonts remain easily legible? And now your overall physical design message. Do your graphics and data visualization deliver a clear and stimulating representation? Have you drawn in your audience by your visual topic? Now, I have provided you with directional knowledge on how to incorporate the 3 principles of universal design of learning by cognitive bias strategies. And your key takeaways are: 1, the engagement, or the why of learning, is the first impression your audience has of you by sparking their interest and curiosity. 2, the representation, or the what of learning, plays an important role in your physical design of your presentation by communicating your understanding. And 3, the action and expression, or the how of learning, is giving your audience an opportunity to engage and interact by leaving them wanting to learn more. Now, be conscious of how you incorporate the UDL principles. There should be a balance and flow between them all to create an enticing presentation for your inclusive audience. And this concludes Section 3, Cognitive Bias by Universal Design of Learning. Start assembling your presentation and see where your gaps are using cognitive bias as a strategy in your physical design and in your writing. Please complete the Q&A at the end of this section using the PDFs as notes. This presentation was designed in Canva. All of the content was written and narrated by me, Michelle Carmichael, and the cognitive biases were by 6 Minute series author Andrew Douglin. Thank you very much.